What up, cappers, gamblers, punters, hustlers, low baggers? Welcome to the Nightly Bag right here on Pub Sports Radio. It has been disappointing evening for me. I was hesitant about a lot of spots on today's board. I expect to lose this first 5 under 6 in Dodgers, Colorado, and then be 2 and 5 in MLB today, which is disappointing. We have a WNBA game popping off here, but it's, what I decided to do, there's a lot of spots I want to attack on tomorrow's card in MLB, and I have not bet them. I want to talk them out with you guys. I felt like we were seeing things so clearly last week. We had a big week, 10-plus unit week, and it's, when you take a couple days off on the weekend to regroup, yes, you come back refreshed, but you lose some of that killer instinct. And I hope I find that sap as soon as possible. A shout out to all the cappers joining us. We got Josh Witt in the house, the nuke worker, fresh off celebrating his birthday this past weekend. I hope it was a great birthday, my man. The nuke worker in the house. We got Josh Witt. A lot of action here for Josh Witt. We also have the nuke worker saying, if anyone close to Woodbine Racetrack on Saturday, join us for the Summit of Champions. I cannot wait for this weekend. It's going to be absolutely magical. But we will be up at Woodbine at the Stella Artois Lounge. Now, I need to make reservations, so if anybody wants to join us, we're 3 tables deep. I would need to reserve another table, so let me know if anybody else wants to run with us. But I cannot wait for Saturday. I can almost taste the whiskey, nuke. Nasty Nate, currently the chip leader. I love to hear that. We are going to be announcing poker tournaments here very soon with Bet Online that we are excited about. Top set in the house. Mark Stasowski, AM, Nicholas Handy, Man, Bear, Pig. Low Key Productions is also Low Key Productions' birthday week, too. He's off to Greece for a huge trip, or he would be rocking with us up at Rexdale Boulevard in the 427 Woodbine Racetrack. Well, let's get right to work. We have a lot of work to do. We have a big, beautiful MLB card, and I want to attack a whole bunch of spots. So there's certain spots that I need to talk out with you guys, and I hope I find some clarity. I expect that I'm going to find some clarity here. So let's get right to work. Thank you guys for joining us. Welcome to the Nightly Bag right here on Pub Sports Radio. Let's get to work here. We start at 6:35 p.m. Eastern with the New York Yankees, 69 and 55, 38 and 28 on the road at the Baltimore Orioles, 61 and 63, 32 and 38 home where Oriole Park, Camden Yards in Baltimore, Maryland, plus 6% runs, minus 11% homers, plus 12% doubles, and plus 9% singles. Let me go over what I have here as well for Oriole Park, and that is exactly what I have as well. Man Bear Pig says, is that cracking? No, I'm going to dry out for a few days before the festivities because we have a Sports Rage 25th anniversary on Friday. We have the Low Bag Summit of Champions at Woodbine on Saturday. So there's going to be a lot of liquor. So, no, I'm taking it easy. There's coffee and water over here for me. Let's go. Let's roll. We have Carlos Rodon. Carlos Rodon is back. So there's a lot to break down. He's been activated from the 15-day IL. He's been out since early July due to left elbow inflammation. Of course, he's a lefty. He started the year on the shelf while finishing up his rehab from off-season elbow surgery. He was good this year, 3.30 ERA, 1.25 whip, 52 strikeouts and 26 walks, higher walk rate than we're used to. He's only allowed 3 home runs this season. He has been out since early July. His first rehab assignment, about a week and a half ago, wasn't that good. He allowed 3 runs on 3 hits, 2 walks while striking out 4. AAA, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre. And that was not very good. He was pulled after throwing 48 pitches, only 29 for strikes. Then he rolled through 4 1/3 scoreless on Thursday. Now, this was at AA Somerset, so it was a bit of an easier situation for him. He threw 58 pitches in this outing and struck out 7. Looked very good. But we know that he's not going to be going deep into the game. DeJuan Turrentine says exactly something that I want to talk about here, that the Orioles are crushing lefties. But I would have come to you guys already with action on the Wizard of Boz and the Baltimore Orioles. But this line is moving towards the New York Yankees. And it obviously gave me the opportunity to talk it out with you guys before we go. So it's the Wizard of Boz going up against Carlos Rodon. The Wizard of Boz was rolling right along before his last start. Absolutely rolling. and things didn't go his way. He had just thrown a complete game, a 93 pitch complete game. He had allowed 5 earned runs his last 4 starts. He allowed 7 earned runs his last 5 starts. He was pitching at a very high level, and what happened? He got lit up and smoked, much to my chagrin. 3 innings, 9 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 Ks, 1 walk, and a 7-5 loss to the Twins. It was ugly. It was absolutely ugly here. Mark Sosowski says that this is already starting to move to New York, and all the action is in favor of the New York Yankees. He wants Baltimore first 5, but says no need to go now. Dan H is with me on the Valks, so we'll keep me in the loop as to what's going on in that game. I'm trying hard not to focus on. It's my only live action left tonight, so it'll be pretty easy to stay focused here. So, look, I want to back Wizard of Oz. I think Wizard of Oz will bounce back, and why wouldn't he against this weak-ass Yankees lineup? I think this all sets up very well to back the Orioles, except, as Mark Sosowski set up for us, except the line and the movement towards the Yankees. Orioles bullpen 3.76 ERA, 1.32 WHIP. Yankees bullpen 2.99 ERA, 1.27 WHIP. Both playing well. The Yankees have been playing well for a long, long time. Their bullpen. From the sticks, though, we just get nothing from the Yankees, as you guys have seen over and over again. They're under better's dream. 195, 614 OPS last 30 versus righties. Orioles versus lefties, 267, 828 OPS. There's our guy, Rye Cape, in the house. Rye Cape, it's been too long. Great to see you back. OG back in business with us. So let's get into the aforementioned line history. Now, there has been 3 cents of buyback, which almost got me to move before I came to the show. This line opened up with the Orioles at minus 115. 5 hours and 27 minutes later, the Orioles were plus 103. So the Yankees went from plus 104 to minus 113. Then there was the 3 cents of buyback that I mentioned at 8:55 p.m. So right now there's been 15 cents of movement towards the Yankees. Well, 14 cents towards the Yankees, 15 cents away from the Orioles. So now we have the Orioles at plus 100 and the Yankees at minus 110. Let's get to the total. From a total side of things here, there's been a 10-cent move to the over. Obviously, they're sitting here saying that the Wizard of Oz is the more vulnerable one, but Penny isn't quite saying that. Let's get over to Penny here right now and talk about the difference in price, first 5 and full game. We have the Orioles at plus 100 here at Penny as well, plus 100 at Pinnacle, and first 5, minus 108, minus 108. So we have the Yankees minus 110 full game, first 5, minus 108. Well, I want in. Topset says I feel like has a good read on his O's. Says the first 5 is the only way I'd like to take those. Don't like it. Feel like the Yankees is the side. Well, I'll tell you what I want to do here, and I'm going to go up against the market at this point. And I imagine that we don't have much information here, but talking it out has only solidified my plan here. So let's pull up and see if there's any information that we can add to this here. We have 58% of the tickets and 88% of cash on the New York Yankees. 90% of tickets are on the under, 90% of cash on the under. Man Bear Pigs moving on the O's, money line minus 103. His Airness is asking about the under. I'm not. This isn't a situation for me where an under is appealing. It's already moved 10 cents towards the over. I see one sharp book that's moved it to a 9, albeit plus 102 to the over and juice to the under. What I want to do is follow through with the plan. The plan thus far that's been working so well for us is we've been backing pitchers off the IL that aren't dealing with arm-related issues. And I can't get past this is off-season elbow surgery, and he goes on the shelf for an elbow ailment. He can't pitch well. He doesn't look good against AAA. He goes down to AA and strikes out 7. The Orioles are hitting 267 with an 828 OPS versus lefties last 30 days. So, yeah, I want to challenge him, and I'm going to challenge him. The question is, do I add more than a first 5? Because a first 3, is well within the realm of possibilities here. Let's just take a look at what that first 3 costs. And I've got to be I've got to be aware of our time here. We can't be spending too long on these spots. But let's just quickly take a look here. So we got here at 365, the Orioles are minus 105 full game. Minus 105 full game. When we get to the first five, the Orioles are minus 120. That's a 15-cent move at 365. That's much, much bigger than the Pinnacle move. Now, I don't care about the square books as much as I really want to know about the sharp books. I consider 365 a rich book, but not necessarily a sharp book. The first three here is the Orioles minus 125. Look, I'm going to move on these. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to challenge Carlos Rodon. I don't put it past him to pitch very well, but I feel like it's worthy. Maybe I should only bet first five right now. And then if the line moves somewhat in my favor, add the first three. But I'm going to be moving on the O's this evening, challenging Rodon, challenging a pitcher coming off the IL with an arm-related issue. A shout out to my guy, Marty Riggs in the house. Love to see Rye Cape, Marty Riggs, the old school low baggers in the house. So there we go. So I'm not interested in the under. I'm just interested in Boz bouncing back. The question is, should I wait? Should I wait? Is it more responsible to wait to move on this here because it appears the line's moving towards the Yankees? We don't have line history on the first five at this point, so there's not much I can do other than gamble. All right, let's roll on. Marcus Howsky says he's on Baltimore first five win and see if the line goes with the tickets and money more. And we roll on. Next spot on the board for 6:40 p.m. Eastern, we have the Detroit Tigers 60 and 64, 28 and 33 on the road. Keith Just Truth in the house at the Pittsburgh Pirates 61 and 65, 32 and 31 at home. We're at PNC Park in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Minus 1% runs plus 16% homers minus 1% runs minus 16% homers plus 14% doubles and triples and minus 1% singles. We have the Kiter Montero riddle. It's funny, these two pitchers, Braxton Ashcraft and Kiter Montero. Last week, I messed up with Kiter Montero. I didn't think that he was going to be, deliver the dominant performance that he did. But we nailed the Braxton Ashcraft, and I believe he was going up against Tyler Phillips. But we nailed that, and we didn't nail it from an X's and O's perspective. We just read the market, read the tea leaves, saw the cash all over Miami. Ashcraft not looking very good over his last few starts. 3 of his last 4 of his last 5 have been bad, and we just followed. Faded the public. When the line was moving towards the Pirates with all the money on the other side. So I can't take credit from an X's and O's perspective, but we nailed Ashcraft. And I screwed up Kiter Montero, whom I'm a big fan of. 9-7, 3.22 ERA, 0.99 WHIP, 3.48 expected ERA. He's done everything asked of him this season, and he's handled everything so well. He started the year 15 starts in the rotation, then they moved him to the bullpen. He got 3.34 ERA after 15 starts in rotation. They moved him into the bullpen. He's got a 2.08 ERA in the bullpen. Then he gets a chance to come back starting again after the All-Star break, and he starts pitching at a high level once again. He had allowed 5 earned runs over 6 innings in the 5-2 loss at the Giants. So after that start Friday, August 7th, he'd had 2 bad starts over his last 3 starts. And, he was coming back home, and that's where he'd had a very poor start versus the Orioles on July 27th. So I didn't trust him against the Guardians, and that was a mistake. He was very, very good. Very good. Marcus Housley says he wants to trust Montero. He's interested in the first 5 under and Pitt team total under 4.5. Let's talk about Braxton Ashcraft. 3.88 ERA, 1.11 WHIP. He's had this very low expected ERA, 3.35 expected ERA right now, but it's followed him along all season long. He is a very talented pitcher, and the question was he dealing with arm fatigue? And honestly, I thought he was. If we look at the start before the All-Star break, 5 earned runs over 5 innings at home versus the Brewers. The first start after the All-Star break, 7 earned runs over 3 innings and an 8-5 loss at the Yankees. 4 earned runs over 6 innings on July 26th at home versus the Cubs. 1 earned run, 5 innings. It was a nice performance in the 4-1 win at the Reds. But then he fell right back. But now, again, that was the Brewers who had seen him now twice within a month. They got to him for 4 runs in 5 innings. Maybe I should have seen that clear and made an excuse for that performance. Now, I didn't have to. The books just told us to back Ashcraft, and then he goes completo. 9 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run. It was a solo shot, 10 strikeouts and 1 walk. It was absolutely spectacular. But the question we have to ask is, did he – this is a pitcher that I had some concern about arm fatigue, and we need to know, did he go too deep into that game? Let's take a look at his pitch count. Let's see what he's comfortable with, what he's been dealing with, because he certainly went deeper than he had been going. So let's go over to Braxton right now and look at that pitch count here. I should have had this up. I apologize that I didn't have it up, and here we go. So, oh shit, why not? Here we go. Come on, here we go. Okay, so Ashcraft threw just 85 pitches. God, was he brilliant. So he hasn't had a home start all of August. That is an impressive performance. Now, when obviously you don't want some things in your head. We talked about the cognitive biases. When I moved on the Jansen Junk, Christopher Sanchez first 3 under 2.5 today, I told you that this just reminds me exactly of that Mizorowski Painter start, where I really expected Mizorowski to not allow a run in those first 3 innings. And if Painter allows under 2.5, I cash. And that's what happened in the Junk start. So this reminds me of the Wizard of Boz's complete game. Boz throws a complete game. He only uses 93 pitches for the complete game, and then he gets tagged in his next start at the Twins. I don't want that in my head, but certainly seems like a okay compare. I wish it wasn't in my head, because if that wasn't in my head right now, I'd be saying, how do we not back Ashcraft coming back home here? Now, let's start with the bullpens. Pirates bullpen 3.51 ERA, 1.32 WHIP. Tigers bullpen 3.45 ERA, 1.25 WHIP. Both pitching pretty well. The difference is the sticks. This Pirates team is not hitting 238, 673 OPS. They've looked bad. The Tigers, though, 288, 837 OPS. And you can see from their rolling numbers that this is a team that's really starting to hit. Topset says that he is on the Tigers. He believes they are bet on. Yeah, I see that. God, this is an interesting one. Let's get into the line history. We've seen 5 cents of movement towards Ashcraft. It's funny that it's only moved to minus 130 from minus 125, because you can see from these other books, I mean, they're a lot. Like Bet Online sitting there minus 130. The Bet US minus 130, Penny at minus 132, but there's 138s and 144s, and there's some much bigger numbers out there. Let's take a look at this total. Montero versus Ashcraft. We have a 20-cent move to the over. Very interesting. This opened up plus 105 to the over 8. It was minus 125 to the under 8. Now we're minus 115 to the over 8. 20 cents of movement. Well, it certainly doesn't make me want. Look, you guys know how I work. I really need things to correlate for me to invest in them. And I just, with the 20-cent move to the over, at this point, I'm not looking to rush towards an under. And so, we can take a look at this first 3, but I imagine that there's not. Let's just take a quick look. And again, I'm taking a little bit too long in this game. I'm going to have to start speeding things up. But we have an 8 at a pick'em, a flat pick'em here. So this should just be, a 2.5 at a pick'em. And that's very juiced at Bet365, minus 120 each way. And it's minus 125 to the under. Mark Staszowski, is that because tonight's game is 8-5 right now? Rye Cape says Pirates win. Ashcraft starts 16-8 if he's not mistaken. You know what? I've got some things in my head right now. I mean, we've got 2 young pitchers. They're both coming off very, very good starts. We watched how that sort of blew up in Boz's face. I like the idea of Ashcraft coming back home here. His last 2 home starts, though. Now, that was one after the All-Star break and one before the All-Star break. But his last 2 home starts, he's gone 11 innings. He's allowed 12 hits, 9 earned runs, 2 home runs, struck out 11 and walked 4. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and dangle around some big balls and say, well, this is what I'm doing and this is what I want. What I want is to win. And this doesn't correlate properly for me. If I didn't have that stupid Boz start in my head, I would say, look, Ashcraft only threw 85 pitches. He's going to be very good here. I'm gonna have just to leave this alone at this point. Nothing obvious. If this line wasn't moving 20 cents towards the over, I would have interest in the under. We see sharps attack totals when we have young pitchers coming off stellar starts. Attack it towards the over. I'm gonna have to let this marinate. At this point, which is frustrating. Let's roll on. 6:40 p.m. Eastern. Miami Marlins, Philadelphia Phillies. We're at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The Marlins 10 games under 500, now 11 after I think it was 6-5 final. And the Phillies now 10 games over 500 overall, but just 3 games over 500 at home. Man, Bear Pig in with his play of the day, Marlins plus 200. The best thing I've been doing, I believe, over the last couple weeks has been fading Wheeler. It's not an easy thing to do. And I got really hung up on that Toronto start when they were calling him out for not having his foot on the rubber. It seemed to affect him. I know he's a vet, but he's an emotional guy and he cares very much, and it seemed to affect him. Let's talk about the weather here at Citizens Bank Park. Plus 2% runs, plus 1% homers, plus 1% doubles and triples, and even 4 singles. We have Tyler Phillips, whom I don't trust. 30 appearances Mr. Phillips has had for the Marlins. He has started 14 games. Of those 14 games, he's had 2 quality starts, 3-6 with 2 saves, 3.65 ERA, 1.36 whip. He has a 4.82 expected ERA. He needs soft contact. This isn't a guy who's going to get a strikeout when you desperately need it. 76 strikeouts in 98 2/3, 76 strikeouts and 40 walks here. I love it. I love to hear that. I love to hear that, OG Swag. Great to see you. Great to have you here, man. Topset says, thank God I took the Marlins live plus 2.5. Said saved his Philly bet. And Man Bear Pig says Marlins should have won today. They were robbed by an insane fair foul ball call. Well, let's talk about the last few starts from Mr. Phillips. Last start, 5 1/3, 4 earned runs, and a 13-1 loss at home versus the Pirates. That was when he went up against Ashcraft. It was ugly. Now he comes back out on the road. Are they going to give him an opener? I mean, I'm surprised that he's not listed here at all the different sites. Let's just see if he's listed here at 365, and he's not. So maybe it's not Phillips. But RotoWire has him, and I expect him to be here. And he's a pitcher that I want to fade. That made it pretty easy for me to follow the market and get on Ashcraft last start. So, and Rod Cape saying that Wheeler hasn't looked sharp. We also need the confirmation that it is Phillips. So let's talk about Wheeler. 10-4, 2.89 ERA, 1 whip. Now, that last start was at the Cardinals. The start where they messed with him was at home versus the Blue Jays. So those are his last 2 starts. He had a rain-shortened start at the Orioles on August 2nd. His second start after the All-Star break, he got lit up by these Marlins. So you have to ask yourself, are they capable of lighting him up here once more? I think the answer is yes. He obviously is dealing with some uncomfort as to where to put the foot. He's now moved to the very furthest spot on the rubber, and now, the opposition is saying your foot's not on the rubber. Christopher Williams in the house. Great to see you, Chris. K-Jack says if it's Phillips, he'll be looking for Bohm over hits, runs, and RBIs. 5 for 8 against him with 3 ribbies. And Josh Witt's running back the Phillies Dodgers money line parlay. So I would like to mess with Wheeler. And if it's Phillips, I would have no problem messing with Phillips. When it gets to the bullpens, Phillies bullpen 4.11 ERA, 1.30 whip. Marlins bullpen 4.71 ERA, 1.40 whip. Neither bullpen is pitching very well right now. Phillies are moving the right trajectory. And then when it comes to the sticks, the Phillies are starting to hit again. Phillies versus righties. You can't quite get it from that breakdown. I guess you do now that 247 up to 250 from the 232. So in the last 30 days, they're hitting 251 with a 749 OPS. And Marlins versus Reds 241, 719 OPS. Bottom of the ninth, Bet says Wheeler at home. He is bouncing back. I mean, it's well within the realm of possibilities in a pitcher like Zach Wheeler. Let's see if the line history kind of leads us into a direction here. We have a lot of books haven't put this out yet. So we can use Heritage. They have this at an 8.5. They opened it at 8.5 and dropped it to 8. So this came out at 6:02 p.m. at Heritage. 9:30 p.m. they dropped it to 8, and then at 10:25 p.m. just 3 minutes ago they brought it back up to 8.5. Overall, there's been 1 cent of movement to the under, just 1 cent of movement towards the under. On the money line here for this spot, we have huge number on Wheeler. I mean, massive. Minus 239, minus 246, somewhere between minus 232 and minus 250 at all these books. Cash flow wise, 85% of the tickets, 89% of the cash on the Phillies. Topset says if they get to him, should it be in the first 3? Well, the problem is that I don't want to trust Phillips. So yeah, Topset talking about the Marlins team first team total, first 5 team total over 1.5. Yeah, I mean I would like to see that as well, but the line isn't out here yet. At penny. Be very interested to see what the cost of all of this is. So, with all of this said and done, I don't see why we wouldn't just go right back to an over well. In this regard, I believe that you need to go full game. We've got some bullpens that were attacked today and should be attacked tomorrow. His Aaron looking at the first 5 over 1.5. I want to see what it is. And I also then want to compare it to what it was the last time he faced the Marlins in Miami. So I need to do some compare and contrast on that first 5 team total over. I'll write it here with question marks. But I also think a simple full game over is in play here. Philly Eagle Flyer says running back, Phillies lead after second and third innings. So I want overs. Coogee Cam in the house, great to see you. But I don't really want to double up on overs. I find that you need to be very pensive, I believe, when you fade these great pitchers coming off of a bad start. Now, we've had multiple bad starts now for Wheeler. But still, I don't want to put too many eggs in that basket at this point. I love it. Bottom of the ninth, wearing his DOC jersey tomorrow. See if he can power Wheeler to shove. Shout out to our guy, bottom of the ninth, Bets. Let's roll on. But I wonder if I'm not sure if I move on that one tonight, but I will be up late. Let's roll on. Next spot on the board here, 6:40 p.m. Eastern, San Francisco Giants at the Cleveland Guardians. Got to be more attentive to this 5-minute clock here. We have Carson Wisenhunt, who got me right in the old shapeshifter last start. Very, very frustrating Wisenhunt. Ugh. And then Foster Griffin, who I want to back badly. And bottom line, missing the DOC. Respect, bottom line ninth. Let's talk about Wisenhunt. 6.11 ERA, 1.71 whip, 5.78 expected ERA. He was able to get a lot of soft contact in AAA Sacramento, which isn't easy. He was struggling mightily to do that. And his K to walk ratio was abhorrent. 22 strikeouts, 18 walks. Last time we saw him, he was great. Got me. 5 2/3, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 2 Ks, 3 walks, and 4-1 win at home over the Astros. It got me. He had allowed 14 earned runs in his previous 3 starts, and that was only covering 11 2/3. But he got me. It was at home. He bounced back. Now I think we fade him. And we back Foster Griffin, 3.25 ERA, 1.11 whip. It is expensive. And I want to go over a couple reasons why I'm not on it coming in here. Foster Griffin was rolling as in that 30-year-old rookie, came over from the Japanese league. He had the bad start at the trade deadline. I think he knew he was going to be moved. He wasn't comfortable with it. 6 earned runs over 5 1/3, 6-2 loss to the Braves. Then he gets traded to the Guardians. His first start was poor. 4 innings, 5 earned runs, 13-6 loss at home versus the Mets. That was up against Nolan McLean. It was a strange start. And then he bounced back. He really bounced back in that last start at the Tigers. 5 innings, 1 earned run. Not only struck out 3 and walked 1, but he looked very good. The issue here is both teams can't hit lefties. But let's talk about the bullpens. They're both bad. I'm shocked to say that about the Guardians bullpen. 4.71 ERA, 1.44 WHIP. The Giants bullpen 4.09 ERA, 1.44 WHIP. They're both bullpens that you can't trust. Now the Guardians are starting to move in the right direction. They better hit that gas pedal. They don't want to fall out of the race right now in the AL Central. Shout out to Jermaine in the house. Then we have the sticks. The Giants cannot hit lefties. 191, 543 OPS. I mean, it is ugly. You're going to start seeing that more and more in these rolling batting averages that they're faltering. The Guardians aren't hitting lefties. Now they have been over the last 10 games, but overall they hadn't been. They had been hitting their last 30 days. It's 238 with a 681 OPS. Now it's improved by 100 OPS points. Let's get into the line history here for Guardians Giants. We have this sitting here at minus 165 opener and now minus 170. Other books have moved it quite further than this. Oh, we just moved to minus 178 7 minutes ago. So waiting for that. That makes a lot of sense. But I want to talk a little bit about why I didn't come here with that first 5. Secondly, this is an 8. It's an 8 at a pick'em. I know that we talked about, and Swiggy had the numbers up here for the progressive, but I want to see it from my own eyes here. So it's minus 2% runs, minus 6% homers, plus 5% doubles and triples, minus 5% singles. I do not want to back Carson Whisenhunt at all. But this is a pretty low total. A very low total. Let's take a look at the price difference here. So, we talked, there were spots on the board today. I could have lost a lot more money. I didn't want to bet the unders with Shane McClanahan start. And I didn't understand certain games where they weren't telling me that there was an advantage backing a player first 5 or backing a team first 5. And I stayed off of those spots. One of the big ones was the McClanahan start. They were telling me that there was no benefit backing the Rays first 5. Then I ended up staying off that game completely. So here with the Guardians, then now they're moved to minus 174 full game. The first 5 is still minus 168, which means the Giants are plus 156 full game. First 5, they're plus 142, a 14-cent difference, which is implying that Whisenhunt can do okay against this lineup of the Cleveland Guardians that can't hit lefties. I do not want to be investing in a spot where I need to hope that Whisenhunt takes care of business. It's the last thing I want to do. Let's just look at this. So over at 365, this is minus 115 to the over. Well, we just saw a perfect example. We just talked about an 8. That 8 was the Montero Ashcraft 8, and it was minus 125 to the under. So here we have the perfect example that we can roll with, and we can, use it. It'll be beneficial when we talk about compare and contrast. So the first 3 for Giants Guardians right now, the first 3 under is a pick 'em, minus 120 each way. Shout out to Light Cheese in the house. God, I don't want to back Whisenhunt. I do feel like the Guardians should be backed first 5 in full game. Jimmy, Mark says, Jimmy, is the first 5 total leaning front loaded, or does it say bullpens are why the totals are so low? It's pretty. We'll see with the sharp action. It's not arrived yet at 365, but we can use Pinnacle and use them as an example. They've got this full game slightly juiced to the under 8, minus 108 to the under 8, and then first 5. That's the first 5 over 4 minus 140. First 5 over 4.5 minus 104. They haven't really tipped their hand yet. But I'll tell you what, they're saying that Whisenhunt is not the problem here, which is a surprise and doesn't quite make sense to me. I'd like to back the Guardians in, first 5 full game. But you'd have to take the first 5 minus a half. You'd have to take the full game minus 1. 75% of the tickets, 89% of the cash is on the Guardians. Circus moved it to a minus 180. BetMGM to a minus 185. You got 50-50 ticket count, but 87% of the cash on the under. I would expect the public to hammer the over. See what Griffin's done since, the trade It's no see. Just look at Wisenhunt's statistical profile. Godfather, what's happening? It's not a good. It's not being a good night. I was too pensive. I think it did. I think it could have been a terrible night had I have, just attacked everything. But not good. 2-5 in MLB. I need a day on Tuesday. Ugly stuff. But we have one spot in WNBA which could clean up a little bit of the mess here, and that's with the Valk swings. So we'll see how it bangs out. I'm ready to move live on if we get some opportunities as well. So with this being said, I want the Guardians, and I'm okay with being public. But wouldn't you think that this first half would be 10 or 15 cents more expensive than the full game, especially if the Guardians' bullpen's been bad? Wouldn't you think that? So, but if that is the case, it's telling us that the first 3 under would be in play. So I've got a lot to think about in this game. I am certainly going to have an investment in it here. Monster T says both teams' bats are cold right now. It can very well be a low-scoring game. I agree. But again, I wouldn't double down on the total, and it would be a first 3 or first 5. I want to stay away from the bullpens. And then I'd be trusting Wisenhunt. Mark Jasowski wanted early overs. I get that, though. I get that. I'm really putting the emphasis on the fact that these teams aren't hitting lefties. I'm also putting emphasis on the fact that the Giants are 14 cents more expensive first 5 with Carson Wisenhunt. Now, we'll see if that changes when we get to the morning bag here shortly. So let's roll on. 6:40 p.m. Eastern. It is astonishing that I've not already bet on Kyle Leahy. I don't know a capper in the industry that likes and believes in Kyle Leahy more than me. I need to back Kyle Leahy as much as possible. And I want him to go up against the best pitchers in the league so that I can get the best opportunities. I've backed Kyle Leahy against Wheeler and cashed. Now these are first 5 plus a half, so I didn't need it against Wheeler. I backed Kyle Leahy against Cease in Toronto and cashed the first 5 plus a half. I want Leahy against every single star there is. But I haven't moved on this one yet. Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, Ohio, plus 10% runs, plus 10% homers, plus 15% doubles and triples, and minus 5% singles. Leahy, 3.38 ERA, 1.34 whips, got a 5.06 expected ERA. His first year starting, he was coming out of the bullpen. It took him a while to really figure things out, and figure things out is what he has done. This guy is being so consistent, so solid. If we look at these starts, post All-Star break, even pre-All-Star break, he allowed 1 earned run in 4 starts before the All-Star break. And this guy was cruising. Then post-All-Star break, he's allowed 7 earned runs in 5 starts. He's been excellent. Shout out to Dutch Boy Fresh in the house. Shout out to Medicate Monday fam. So I want Leahy badly. I want to back Leahy against every 5 days I've been backing Leahy, and I'm not going to stop. But I haven't bet it yet. And we'll break it down a little bit deeper as to why exactly. We have Andrew Abbott, 4.13 ERA, 1.42 whips, got a 4.75 expected ERA. I keep waiting for him, and I keep seeing like little glimpses of him coming back to the pitcher that we saw last year, who had a 2.87 ERA and a 1.15 whip, and clearly made a statement that he was one of the elite pitchers in the league. And the expectation was with him, Hunter Green, and Chase Burns was that the Reds were going to be a team that was a problem to deal with. Let alone picking up Dustin May in the offseason, which, of course, they've now jettisoned to the Brewers. And AM says Kyle Leahy is an under machine. So far, 15, 6, and 3 to the under. So I believe in Leahy. And Andrew Abbott, I still back. He had a tough start to the year. There's been times where I thought we were ahead of the curve backing him, and it didn't quite work out the way I had hoped it would. The last start, he was bad. It was 9-8 win at the White Sox. Now we're seeing the White Sox starting to hit lefties, and that's not something we're seeing from the Cardinals. But we're seeing the White Sox hit lefties. But look at these last 3 starts here for Abbott. Just not as strong as you want. He's gone 16 innings in 3 starts. He's allowed 17 hits. He's allowed 11 earned runs. Now, he hasn't allowed any homers. He's got 12 strikeouts and 12 strikeouts and 10 walks. 12 strikeouts and 10 walks. When did that become Andrew Abbott. Now, this is a Cards team that can't hit lefties. Let's go to the bullpens first. Reds bullpen 4.49 ERA, 1.28 WHIP. These teams just had a double dip today. You know that their bullpens are exhausted. Cards bullpen 4.47 ERA, 1.43 WHIP. Then when it comes to the sticks, Reds versus Reddies 217, 707 OPS, just slightly better than the Cards 210, 671 OPS, just slightly better. So that is where we stand at this point with Reds Cardinals. Let's get into the line history here for this spot. We have no movement on the total. It's an 8.5 sitting minus 120 to the over. And then when we get to the money line here for this one, we have a 5-cent move towards Leahy from minus 110 to minus 115. Now this move from minus 110 to minus 120, and then there's 5 cents of buyback at 7:23 p.m., which caught me a little bit by surprise. And then when we get into the price difference here in Cardinals Reds, we have the Cardinals at minus 115 full game and minus 115 first 5. They are implying that the advantage, slight advantage, is with backing Abbott at home. The Reds are plus 104 full game, plus 104 full game, and first 5 minus 101. Well, this is telling me a sort of a similar story as the Wisenhunt story, and that being that, well, I believe that Leahy should be bet every 5 days. The books are telling me that there's not an advantage with Leahy first 5, which has to say that Abbott is going to pitch well here against a team that can't hit lefties. And I know that the White Sox were a team that wasn't hitting lefties, but that has changed over the last little while, and Abbott was part of that change. So that would lead me to what? That would lead me to backing Leahy in a first 5 situation. I don't want first 3 and first 5. And that would also lead me to back a first 3 under. So let's take a look and see what this price is for the first 3 under and see if it makes sense. Again, we don't see the moves until the morning. That's why, you see us with 30 to 35 cents CLV, or lines going against us. So let's see what we're dealing with right now. Here we have Leahy, Abbott. The full game's 8.5 minus 120 to the over. And then when we get to the first 3, we have a pick'em. I think that's a pretty strong sign, right? We talked about the Montero Ashcraft at 8 at a pick'em, and that was minus 125 cents to the first 3 and a 2.5. We compared that to the Wisenhunt Griffin. That was, a pick'em at 8.5. Well, here we have a pick'em that was a pick'em at 8. This is a pick'em at 8.5. I think that's the way to handle this. You move on Leahy because I really believe in him. So move on Leahy on the first 5 scenario. You back the first 3 under 2.5. You call it a day. Like G said, didn't you say the park and weather conditions are offensive? Yes, it's Great American Ballpark. It's Great American Ballpark. So, we're not dealing with a situation where everything is correlating. We're just dealing in a situation where we know that Abbott is comfortable at Great American Ballpark, comfortable in offensive situations. He faced the Athletics, who aren't hitting very well at home. Allowed 3 earned runs over 6 2/3. The home start before that, he's only had 2 home starts since the All-Star break. He's not been great in them. But yes, it's Great American Ballpark. I mean, you're just going to deal with offensive weather. For Leahy, we know that Busch Stadium is not offensive, so he's utilized that. He faced the Reds on July 26th. Completely shut them down. They got it for 2 solo shots, but 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 9 Ks, 1 walk. And then, on the other side of the coin with Abbott, he shut down the Cardinals. Now that was in St. Louis. I mean, is the reason why this is an 8.5 and not an 8, you would expect, is simply due to Great American Ballpark. And, talking about Great American Ballpark, being this, offensive stadium, if we look at what the weather is doing to Great American Ballpark, it's not changing much. What you saw was the combination of the combined effect of the stadium and the weather. But if it's just weather, it's plus 1% runs, minus 2% homers, plus 12% doubles and triples, and minus 4% singles. It's not too much to deal with. Shout out to Spooner in the house. Stimmy OG rocking with us too. Great to see you guys. So I'm set. I know how I want to handle this. So I'm going to move on the Cardinals first 5. I'm going to back Leahy, even though the books tell me that there's not an advantage doing so. and I'm going to back the first three under 2.5 because if I really believe in Leahy, and the books are telling me that the advantage lies slightly with Abbott at home, well then I expect to hit that first three under 2.5. Lychee's my pleasure, but Lychee's, you're absolutely right. Like when I would like everything to correlate. I would like the first five to be much more expensive than the full game. I would like run suppressing weather. I would like the market moving towards, you know, the. I guess I kind of like first three unders when the market is moving slightly towards the pitcher that I don't believe in as much as the other one because that just gives me some more confidence. But I would prefer it all correlate. And if it had all correlate light cheese, I would have come to the show with the bet already placed. So you have it was a good question. And then his Aaron says, too bad hitting teams. Shout out to the solution in the house. So let's roll on. Let's roll on. Thank you guys for joining us. The Nightly Bag here on Pub Sports Radio, 6:40 p.m. Eastern. The Toronto Blue Jays, the Tampa Bay Rays. We're at the Trop in St. Petersburg, Florida. The Jays are fighting. All these people here believe they're going to make the playoffs, and it's just a sad, sad reality that they don't know will be coming their way. But they are playing much better. 61, 65, 20, and 32 on the road. The Rays 74 and 49, 41 and 21 at home. We have Jose Soriano going up against Slick Nick Martinez. And excellent work by our guy Spoons for getting in on this first 302.5 minus 130. At this point, the 3.5s I need my local for, and he acts as 365. So I don't get them until 10 p.m. I've got to make it. I've got to change that. It's clearly hurting me. This is a 7.5 at a pick'em, and before the show started, they weren't showing me the first fives and first threes. They are now, and this first three is minus 140 to the under. I thought it would be more than that. And look at this. It's because of this total. This there's been a move towards the over. Wow, this was a 3.5 here at 365. And I was like, oh my gosh, when this 3 comes out, it's going to be so low. Now the under 3.5 plus 125. So they're actually showing a 4.5. So you could buy the 4. That's very, very strange. I did not expect that. Still, we have CLV here, 4-spooner, which is all you want, really. It's just for a little comfort. Let's talk about Jose Soriano, 3.16 ERA, 1.25 whip, 4.52 expected ERA. He's enjoying working with Pete Walker. Pete Walker, the Jays pitching coach, has a real belief in him. They're utilizing him differently than he was being utilized by the Angels. He's throwing 10 2/3 for the Toronto Blue Jays. And, they've been in difficult situations or somewhat difficult situations. The first was at Philly. The second one was at home versus Boston. Combined, he's gone 10 2/3. He's allowed, and that Philly start was very offensive conditions. But 10 2/3. He's gone 8 hits, 3 earned runs. He's allowed 1 home run. He struck out 7 and walked 5. Striking out 7 and walked 5 is not the K to walk ratio that one would expect from Soriano. He's got 134 Ks and 133 2/3 with 62 walks. He looks good. But this is going to be a tough test going down to the Trop. Nick Martinez, on the other hand, 12 3, 2.74 ERA, 1.09 whips, got a 4.43 expected ERA. Last time we saw Slick Nick, he went completo. A 12-4 win at the Athletics. God, is he just delivering? Every time you think, oh, he's gonna turn into a pumpkin, he just has another great start. This guy is just, God, he's just been so good. Leave it to the Rays to, the Reds aren't even using this guy's the long reliever for the Reds, and the Rays bring him in, and he's an all-star immediately. Unbelievable. Yeah, bottom of the ninth bets. Yeah, that was a big story today. Marte not showing up. That's what happened. He didn't show. So there's some concerns about what's going on there. Top set, moving on this first 302.5, getting the minus 130. I was sure that I'd be sitting here at the minus 155. Sure of it. I'm curious to dive deeper into how this has moved slightly back. But let's talk about these bullpens. Rays bullpen, as professional it gets, 3.67 ERA, 1.07 whip. Jays bullpen is, hold on for the ride. It's very dangerous. They're very vulnerable, but they're getting the job done right now. 3.65 ERA, 1.46 whip. Then for the sticks, the Rays 276, 785 OPS, just delivering. The Jays are not, and they don't have power, but they're starting to hit with more average. Look, they're pretty excited that they're back in this race, which with a bunch of, also rans in the AL. 247, 679 OPS. Let's get into the line history here for this Jays Rays spot. We've had a 9-cent move towards the Jays and Jose Soriano from plus 140 to plus 131. And then when we get to the total here for this spot, we have a 7.5 at a pick'em, a flat pick'em. Let's take a look at the price difference, full game and first five here. Full game and first five for Jays, Rays. We have the Jays at plus 130 full game. First five plus 117. That is a pretty big difference. First five over 4 is minus 127. Under 4.5, minus 123. Wow. This is pretty appealing. I mean, why wouldn't these two pitchers be able to get under 2.5 runs? Shout out to Dabby Cab in the house. Let's take a look at the cash flow then. Take a look at the cash flow and decide what moves we are comfortable moving on here. We have 64% of the tickets, 63% of the cash on the Jays. Surprise. We don't know what's going on with the total. We don't have that cash yet. AJ Stogg still says, what books have the first 5 and first 3 lines? Well, Caesars has been a good one for a while. Caesars is the book that I want to add the most. But the one of the it's FanDuel, I guess. FanDuel has the first 3s that come out at around 5 p.m. come out the earliest. I would like to add the Caesars book at this point, but I could do more than that. But good question. And then I use 365. I use Bet 365. That's what I use for my first 3s. All right. Well, I agree with you guys. I think that the unders are in play. That now the first 3 is a bit of a problem. It's heavily juiced. If I could get a minus 130, I'd probably be comfortable with it. And John Preston saying, yeah, FanDuel comes out with those. I should get both. I should have both here. That's great news, Dewan, my man. That's great news. So this is a problem here, though. If I'm looking at a minus 140 for the first 3 under, I could build the 2 at plus money and bet the first 5. I mean, that might be the way of doing it. The first 5 under 4.5 is, if at a minus 123, it's far more appealing than the first 3 under 2.5 at minus 140 here. Dabby Cab giving us new information on Nick Martinez that we didn't have previous to the show. But I'm interested in joining you. I don't have a look on the side at this point. I don't really have a look on the side. I mean, I guess I take that back. I mean, why would I not want the Rays? I mean, I don't see why I would want the Rays. It's like the Jays are playing high character baseball, but now they're going to leave Rogers and they're going to head out on the road. Now, look, this line's clearly moving towards the Jays. There's no reason for me to get involved, but I would have interest in backing the Rays every game here on out, basically. I mean, look what they did today. I mean, McClanahan gets torched, and they still, battle nonstop. And they're a good baseball team. Let's roll on. 7:10 p.m. Eastern. Arizona Diamondbacks 66-59, 30-32 on the road. The Boston Red Sox 66-58, 29-31 at home. We're at Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts. I just despise the moving towards this Arizona Boston game for Medicaid Monday for me. My double up was the Padres Mets game. So I don't know why I didn't give that full game under, and God's been just bothering me all night. Let's roll here. Bam Bear Pig says Diamondbacks today after that, or Diamondbacks Tuesday after the blowout Monday. Let's talk about Merle Kelly and Fenway Park first. We should start probably with Fenway Park first. Let's talk about the weather conditions that we will be dealing with here. Minus 6% runs, minus 5% homers, minus 9% doubles and triples, and we have even singles. Do I have that? Oh, because I'm still on weather only. Thank you. Sorry, I was tripping there. A combined effect is right, exactly what we see. Plus 2% runs, minus 12% homers, plus 11% doubles and triples, plus 6% singles. So somewhat offensive. We have Merle Kelly here, And I don't know why I fell for this belief in Merrill Kelly in that last start at home versus the Rockies. 6 earned runs over 5 innings. He looked terrible. 2 of his last 3 starts now, he's being lit up and smoked. Now, I don't really like what I'm seeing from Ranger Suarez. He did look good in that last start at the Jays. Thank you, Spooner. So Spooner's saying Caesars opens up their first of the first threes between 4 and 5. Then FanDuel and Hard Rock open around 8 p.m. And then we get 365 around 9:15, 9:30. So Suarez dealt with the groin. So he had right hamstring tightness in May, and then he had a left groin strain in July, and he just hasn't. That was the first start versus the Jays that he went 5 innings post All-Star break. I don't really trust him here. Now, the Diamondbacks are smashing lefties. Now, we didn't see that. We didn't see that today, but they are hitting lefties really hard. Bullpen-wise, Red Sox bullpen very, very good. 2.29 ERA, 0.99 WHIP. Diamondbacks bullpen 4.44 ERA, 1.34 WHIP. Those are last 30-day stats, of course. And then we have these teams hitting. Diamondbacks are hitting lefties, 297, 853 OPS. Red Sox versus righties, 270, 796 OPS. Both teams are hitting. Let's get into the line history here for Arizona, Boston. We have 2 cents of movement towards Suarez and the Red Sox. God, maybe he's starting to get a little more comfortable just because he went 5 innings. I want to fade Suarez, but then I have to back Merrill Kelly. It's 8.5 is sitting here minus 105 to the over. It's not moved since 1:56 p.m. I mean, there is nothing that's, appealing for me right now. When we get to the cash flow for this spot, we have 88% of tickets, 86% of the cash on Suarez, 92% of tickets, 94% cash on the over, and it's not moving at all. So we'll take a look at the price difference here. First 5 in full game price difference. First 5 in full game, we have the Red Sox minus 161 full game. First 5 minus 158, which means the Diamondbacks, because there's more vig on 5s. First 5s, Diamondbacks are plus 145 full game. First 5 plus 134. I guess it's nothing right now. But I'm certainly not going to be on a hugely public over when the line's not moving a cent. The books are just seemingly very comfortable taking all these bets on the over. I don't want to back. Merrill Kelly's just screwing me over. I mean, look, if you keep bumping your head in the wall and it hurts, stop bumping your head into the wall. He's got a 5.11 ERA, 1.48 WHIP, 7.13 expected ERA. I thought that, when he missed the first few weeks with the back injury that he'd start finding himself. That's not happening. But I don't really trust Suarez either. It's wild that they're not moving a cent on this total. They're not moving at 1 cent, which is absolutely wild because these offenses are hitting. These pitchers seem vulnerable, and everybody and their mama betting the over right now, and it's not moving. So there's just nothing for me at this point. We'll let it marinate. We'll keep working on it. Let's roll on. Next spot on the board for us, 7:10 p.m. Eastern. San Diego Padres, 67-58, 30-32 on the road at the New York Mets, 56-69, 28-34 at home. We're at Citi Field in Queens, New York. Minus 11% runs, minus 2% homers, minus 24% doubles and triples, minus 4% singles. I could have live bet the under a couple times, but those first 2 innings were madness. They were mayhem. I mean, there could have been 6 runs scored easily. We had 4 different runners out at the plate. I mean, it was insane. And then no more runs were scored at all. But let's talk about the spot. Citi Field in Queens, New York. We got Robbie Ray on the hill facing Zach Thornton. So we have a couple of lefties on the mound. Let's talk about Robbie Ray. 3.28 ERA, 1.33 WHIP. Got 4.57 expected ERA. And he was pitching at a very high level before he went and moved to the Padres. And he's not looked good in 2 starts with the Padres. Now, Casey Mize followed this exact same script. And what did he do in his 3rd start for the Padres? He shoved. Why wouldn't Robbie Ray do that exact same thing here? In 2 starts for Robbie Ray as a Padre, he's got 9 innings, 9 hits, 6 earned runs, 2 homers, 6 Ks, and 8 walks. 6 Ks and 8 walks? I mean, why wouldn't he follow that same trajectory as Casey Mize? Zach Thornton, 3-3, 2.78 ERA, 1.10 WHIPs, got a 4.83 expected ERA. He's been much better than I thought. He's just one of these. We see this often with lefties for whatever reason. They'll look very good or very strong in AA. They'll move up to AAA and they'll get touched up, and then for whatever reason they come into the majors and they pitch better than they were pitching in AAA. And we have one of them here. His Airness says Ray is on the downswing. I mean, nobody would have said that though. His Airness, in the 4, 5, 7 starts coming into the All-Star break. In those 7 starts, he allowed 6 earned runs. He was pitching at a very high level. Now he had a bad start to the year, but I don't think we saw him too short here. We'll see if the books back this up, but I don't see why he wouldn't follow the suit that was led by Casey Mize. Let's talk about Zach Thornton, though. His last start, 3 earned runs over 6 innings at the Braves. Start before that, no earned runs over 5 innings at the Pirates. He looked slightly vulnerable in those 2 starts before that, at home versus the Braves. So the Braves are seeing a second time, and then at home versus the Marlins. So, but I don't need to find issues with him. He's pitching well. Topset says this line at 8.5 is too high. Let's talk about these bullpens because they're so. I don't know why I was trying to find the right time to move on the alive under because I love the bullpens. They can get their starters out of trouble, but then the starters both started shoving, and it was just too late, I felt. But I guess it wasn't. Mets bullpen, 2.49 ERA, 1.15 WHIP. They're pitching at a very high level. And the Padres bullpen is back to being absolutely elite. 3.32 ERA, 1.16 WHIP. Remember, this was the best bullpen in baseball for the first 2 months of the year, and then they fell off. When it comes to the sticks, the teams are both hitting lefties reasonably well. Padres are hitting lefties better than the Mets. Padres 260, 728 OPS. Mets versus lefties 238, 749 OPS. Londo, excellent work. Cashing his hot Swedish girlfriend play today. Love to see it. Let's get into the line history here for Mets Padres because I'm interested in this one. We have an 8.5 of the pick'em. 8.5 of the pick'em. This is another total though, but this total didn't come out until after our show started. It's only been available for 58 minutes. I agree. I agree that it's too high of a total. Let's compare it to some other totals here in Mets games. So we have Robbie Ray minus 112. There's been no movement there either. So let's see what we get price difference wise. First 5 in full game for this Mets spot. See if the books are tipping their hand at an advantage here. So we have the New York Mets are plus 101 full game. First 5 minus 102. Not giving us anything here. The Padres are minus 111 full game. First 5 minus 114. Not really giving us anything. So let's take a look and compare a couple things here. So we have a total here at 8.5 with 2 good pitchers on the mound in Thornton and Robbie Ray. We have a total of 8.5. So let's get into the total today, of which I moved on. The total today closed. Oh, sorry, this game's already gone. There we go. This total closed at 7.5. It opened up at 8 juice to the over. It closed at 7.5. So much, much lower. We go to yesterday. Now, that was Irvin versus Christian Scott. But that was here at City. And that opened up 8.5 juice to the under. So Irvin and Scott, the opening line was juiced towards the under. And Robbie Ray and Thornton isn't at 8.5. That's interesting. I think that could give me some pause here. Tabby, I just, why would this total be so much? Well, not so much, but even higher than an Jake Irvin, Christian Scott start. It's a full run higher, than the line that we capped today. So, and that was Walker Buehler versus Nolan McLean, when clearly Walker Buehler was the vulnerable one. So look, I guess I need to sit with this for longer. Why would the books open this up at an 8.5 at a pick 'em, higher than either of those last two games at Citi Field? And I don't think the books are idiots. And so I guess there's no move for me at this point. But I will tell you this. I think the Padres are live. I think the Padres are live first 5 in full game. But I don't know if it is going to require a bet at this point. When we take a look at the cash flow here, so we get some information, we have no information. 80% of the tickets are on the Padres, 84% of cash on the Mets. I think I'm gonna have to leave this. I thought that we had an angle set here, but the more we talked about the price for the total, the more it kind of got me away here. I think there's a lot of things we can count on, though, in this baseball game. What I would count on is if we can't count on Robbie Ray out pitching Zach Thornton, I think we can count on the Padres sticks out hitting the Mets sticks, and I think we can count on the Padres bullpen out pitching the Mets bullpen. Statistically speaking, we don't have the bullpen results at this point, but we know who's in the bullpen. And Topset says, I think Thornton is the weak link. I think so, but he's proved me wrong a few different times. So, yeah, I'm with you, but it appears it's a public spot where the big bet's coming in on the Mets at this point. I'm going to leave Padres first 5 full game here, but I'm going to leave question marks. I'm going to leave question marks here. John Preston says, I can see Ray going an inning more than Thornton, so the price kind of makes sense. I guess you're talking about the first 5 price. The total, I wouldn't say that if you gave me 3 sets of 2 pitchers, Jake Irvin, Christian Scott, Walker Buehler, Nolan McLean, Robbie Ray, and Zach Thornton, I would, when you told me that Zach Thornton and Robbie Ray will have the highest total of those 3 teams when they're all playing in run-suppressing weather, I would be surprised. And I would have to take that information and then go utilize it in my capping. So let's roll on. Let's roll on at this point. I need more time. 7:40 p.m. Eastern with the Athletics, Kansas City Royals. Athletics 49-75, 26-35 on the road. Royals 51-74, 29-30 at home. Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. Minus 1% runs, plus 8% homers, minus 5% doubles and triples, and minus 6% singles. You know, obviously we talked a lot about, what price should a team like the Royals be. And they won 9-5. Like, it wasn't a very simple, easy victory for them over the Athletics. And I'm still kind of I want things to be expensive, but you want teams that aren't 23 games under 500 to be listed at minus 200. I understand why we stayed off of it, but we did leave money on the table, not fading Barnett, and not backing Waka, even though Waka didn't pitch very well. I'm comfortable with the decisions that we made. But let's roll. Jack Perkins, 2-9, 7.27 ERA, 1.52 WHIP. He, like Barnett, has a much lower expected ERA at 4.16. So the last start we saw from Perkins was horrible. I mean, look at these last 3 starts. I mean, they're abysmal. And yet he's still going out there every 5 days. Insane. In his last 3 starts combined, so let's go there, he has thrown 13 1/3 innings. He's allowed 26 hits. He's allowed 17 earned runs. Good God. He struck out 14 and walked 5. I mean, he does not look good. Daniel Lynch has really upset me the last 2, especially the last time. I mean, that I was with you guys on the Friday night. I was with you guys on the Wednesday night. I thought I was going to. I remember I was 10-7 coming into our Wednesday night nightly bag. I had 3 bets left. It looked like I was going to go 2-1 on them. I had 2 bets in the Royals game, and I was backing Lynch. I had the Royals first 3 plus a half. They were up 2-1 going to the bottom of the third, and they lost that. Ohtani hit a 2-run shot, and so Lynch has had great numbers this year. 2.88 ERA, 1.02 WHIP. He's going to be the opener that we expect. It's a Lynch Black combination again tomorrow is our expectation, and Lynch has been great all year. They get him to start 2 games, and he falls apart, just like he did when he was stretched out as a starter. I mean, now there's that there's something that that, like, I don't want to say negative things, but it's upstairs. Whatever's going wrong is mental. So these last two starts, he's opened for the first time all year. He's gone 4 innings. He's allowed 6 hits, 6 earned runs, and 2 home runs. Struck out 5, walked 2. It's not being good. I don't know exactly why that would change here. Even though, I want to back him at home. I want to fade Perkins. We have Mason Black, on the other hand. He's pitched in 14 games. Hasn't started any of them. 3.51 ERA, 1.60 whip. He's got a 7.17 expected ERA. He was getting lit up in AAA Omaha as well. 5.92 ERA, 1.48 whip there. 3rd round pick by the Giants in 2021 draft out of Lehigh University. Last time we saw him was August 12th. So we've seen him on both these starts, carrying the torch from Daniel Lynch. Both of these starts, both of these experiences, he's looked better than Lynch. I don't know how much that says. 8 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 homers, 3 Ks, and 5 walks. Maybe they just shouldn't be trusted. Maybe they just shouldn't either. Maybe that nobody should be trusted in this spot. Royals bullpen 5.05 ERA, 1.50 whip. It's a problem unless you compare it to the A's bullpen with a 7.61 ERA, 1.75 whip. Absolutely horrific. And then when you get to the sticks, we expect the lefty to open, then the righty to come next. So if we go with the A's versus lefties, last 30 days, 234, 685 OPS. A's versus righties, 251, 742 OPS. If you combine that with the offensive conditions they so often play with at Sutter Health Park, they're terrible. And then when it comes to the Royals versus righties, 232, 684 OPS. So his airness, his only thing to trust is runs. Well, let's see what we're dealing with here. So I got to move back to Tuesday the 18th here for line history. So let's go back. Let's take a look at what we're dealing with. We have a 10 here, a 10 juice to the under. A lot of the books haven't opened this one up because we don't know exactly if we expect the Lynch Black combination, but it's not being confirmed. We've had 7 cents of movement to the under 10 minus 112 to under 10 at minus 119. If you ask me who do you trust between Perkins and Barnett, Mason Barnett and Jack Perkins for the Athletics, it'd be Perkins for sure. And you guys know when I see like spots that I know are going to be so public towards the over, I will have interest in the under. But I mean it's just it's optional misery here. We have at Heritage the Royals at minus 133. It's amazing that Waka would give them a minus 200. It's just insane to me. I don't think we need to worry too much about price difference at this point. This line I don't even think is available right now over at Pinnacle. It's not available at this point, so there's no worries about there. When we go to the cash flow again, I don't want to put too much into this either. This is just not being available for long enough to let this market marinate at all. We have information. 57% of the tickets and 93% of the cash on the Royals. 50-50 ticket count, but 89% of cash on the over. I'll tell you this. We can easily, expect this to be bet. The over is to be bet nonstop in this game. If we wake up and it's a 10 minus 125 to the under, and some books are hanging 9.5s, I wonder if it's worth, taking a shot at fading the public. I'm certainly not going to do that here. But there have been times where I thought that, Perkins looked okay. I guess just not enough of them. I mean, he's looked terrible this year. I mean, who am I trying to fool? All right, I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to sit with this longer. But I think that Lynch Black 1-2 should be fine. It's just Lynch has been screwing everything up. I think they're very different pitchers, so it works well for the 1-2 combo. Again, we'll let this market sit around for a little longer. Let's talk about Seattle Mariners, Milwaukee Brewers, American Family Field, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You guys know I'm a high volume bettor, and with the action that I've been delivering, there have been, mistakes. Always mistakes, too many mistakes. But there's a lot of things I've been doing right. One thing I've been doing right is fading Bryce Miller. I knew it right from the start. He was pitching out of his mind. We all know how bad he looked last year, and we, blamed it on his elbow troubles. He misses the first quarter of the season with a left oblique strain, and then all of a sudden he's untouchable. And so, we waited for the right moment and we just started attacking him. So, yeah, I hear that, Mark. I feel you. It's optional misery. I mean, Topset says don't bet this, and I get it, but if 90 to 96% of the cash is on the over and it's not moving or slightly moving to the under, I will bet it. But let's talk about this spot here. Last time we saw Bryce Miller and over again, he's just getting touched and touched and touched. Now this total's already climbed to the over, and I was watching it climb, and because I just want to attack them early, first threes and first fives, But the problem is that it's very possible that Kyle Harrison shoves in this situation. He's coming off a horrific start. He's only had 2 starts since the left forearm extensor tendinopathy, whatever the hell that is. Well, it's left forearm issue. So he's had 2 starts. That first start he was great in, and the second start he looked terrible in. The fact that he's going out there, we have to trust. The Brewers are in such a great situation here, knowing that the playoffs are calling them. There's just no way they would risk Kyle Harrison. Zero chance that they would risk Kyle Harrison at this point. His Aaron asks if his velocity is down in his last start. It wasn't in his first start. He had 10 strikeouts over 5, and he was firing. But let's find out here quickly. Okay. All right, let's see. No, it was not down. And you know what? I wouldn't even needed to have asked that because, again, if the Brewers are going to trust him out there and not, if there's any concern, they would be putting him on the shelf and getting him ready to go, making sure that he was healthy for the playoffs. So I think here that we just trust the Brewers implicitly. Pat Murphy, those guys, they're such a great group. So we just trust them implicitly. But that was a horrible start at the Padres. Now he comes home. Last time we saw him at home was that first start after the coming off the IL. And, he didn't allow a run. He allowed 1 hit. He walked 1 batter. He looked excellent. So when we get to the bullpens, Brewers bullpen 3.12 ERA, 1.16 WHIP. This Mariners bullpen 5.40 ERA, 1.37 WHIP. They're going to find it very, very difficult going up against this Milwaukee Brewers team. Very difficult. When it comes to the sticks, the Mariners have stopped hitting lefties. They were raking them for a while, about 4 weeks ago, but that stopped. Over the last 30 days, the Mariners have lefties 235, 680 OPS. Brewers versus righties 239, 704 OPS. Let's get into the line history here for this one because I find, I know what I want to do. It's just, will things correlate properly for me? This line had moved away from Kyle Harrison, away from the Brewers, minus 155 to minus 150. So there was no need to come in here with a bet. 22 minutes ago, there was a 10-cent move to the Brewers. And then 12 minutes ago, there was 5 cents of buyback. So overall, we've had no movement from the opening line to now. It's minus 155, sitting at minus 155. We get to the total here for this spot. We have an 8. And it looks like this is moved back to the under. Interesting. Wow. So this moved from a 7.5 minus 120 to the over 2 and 8, a juice to the under. And then there was a 10-cent move towards the under at 6:52. So I was very curious. And then a 10-cent move back to the over at 8:04 p.m. And then again, 10-cent move back to the under. So there hasn't been that much movement on the total, which is surprising to me here. Let's get into the price difference here. First 5 in full game. We have the Brew Crew at minus 150 full game. First 5 minus 147. So the Mariners are plus 135 full game. First 5 plus 125. I don't understand really how anybody could trust Bryce Miller. But the books are seemingly trusting him here. If we look at Bryce Miller's last 4 starts here, so it's 21 and 2/3 innings. He's allowed 22 hits, 16 earned runs, 5 home runs, 13 strikeouts, and he has walked 6 batters. I don't understand at this point. And obviously, if Kyle Harrison was 15 cents more expensive on the first five than he was full game, or even 8 to 10 cents, I would be already be on him. And then if I thought that Kyle Harrison was vulnerable, I'd be on the first three over or first five over. Let's get into. I'd love to see what that first three total is here. So let's take a look and see what this first three is, and we'll take a guess as we go into it. So we have where are we here? Miller, Harrison. So we have the 8 minus 120 to the under. This is so perfect for us because we've compared these eights. We compared the Marlins Wheeler spot. By the way, look what has just happened. They have announced the Marlins pitcher, and it's Cade Gibson. Huh. Cade Gibson is being announced here. So it's a. I think that Phillips will still go on after him at this point. Okay, so Topset says books are backing the Brewers at this price. See, I mean, you could say that this implied probability means the books are backing the Brewers, Topset. And my reply to you would be that the Brewers are 21 games over 500 at home, and the Mariners are 11 games under 500 on the road. Kyle Harrison is sitting here with a 3.47 ERA and a 1.13 WHIP. The Mariners are hitting 680 OPS versus lefties last 30 days, and I would say it's only a minus 147. So I see it differently. I see it differently. Maybe you could say that. I would say why are the books respecting the Mariners so much? Would be my reply. So again, I want to fade Bryce Miller, and I'm going to fade Bryce Miller. I just want to make sure that I'm doing it the smartest way possible. I do not want to mess with Kyle. What I should be saying here is that the fact that Kyle Harrison allows 8 earned runs, and because look, Spoon says recent form for Harrison isn't there right now. It's one start. It's just one start. I mean, look at that first start off of the IL at home. I think that if this line was to open up at minus 150 with what we've seen from Bryce Miller, it should be a minus 167 right now, and it should close at minus 172. Personally, that the minus 147 is strange. I mean, why would we say that there's any kind of concern for Kyle Harrison at home? Last start at home, he doesn't allow a run over 5 innings. 10 strikes out 10. First start after the IL. If we go back to his start before this one, at home, it was against the Cubs, who were hitting lefties hard. He allows 2 runs over 5 innings, strikes out 9, walks 1. The home start before that, Phillies, doesn't allow a run over 6 innings, doesn't walk a batter. The 2 home starts before that, he allowed 1 earned run over a combined 11 2/3. Topset says minus 150 is a lot versus Miller. I guess that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I guess I don't really have an argument for that. I mean that's fair. Minus 150 is a lot versus Miller. I think that Harrison needs to be backed, and I would also like to be on a first 5 over in this. First 5 over, minus 123. First 5 over 4, sorry. So I'd like to bet both. First 5 over 4, minus 123. And then back to Brewers, first 5, minus a half. That's the way I expect to move on this. And I'll make that, I'll bet it after the show, and then I'll post it on Discord, and I'll post it on X. And look, I love hearing all the, I love this stuff. So I love, Spoons and Topset, challenging certain ideologies. I love, so keep it coming, and thank you guys. So let's roll on. But that's my plan here at this point. Let's roll on. Next spot on the board, 7:40 p.m. Eastern, with the Atlanta Braves, 74-50, 32-27 on the road. The Minnesota Twins, 60-65, 32-31 at home. Target Field, Minneapolis, Minnesota. So this was the bet that I was trying to find when I was like, I was comparing today. I couldn't understand. I couldn't for the life of me understand how, you know, Martin Perez, with the way he's pitching, that they would be telling me that there was a advantage with Bailey Ober over Martin Perez. I've been betting Martin Perez since he came off the IL, you know, first 3, first 5 in every start. I've been betting the unders, and I stayed off because of the market. And I know that there's times you'll see me get off of a winner, but I'm getting off way more losers than I'm getting off winners when I don't see the inherent advantages that I expect to see in the marketplace. And I'm thankful that we break them down and study them. This is a very interesting one here at Target Field in Minneapolis. Looks like we've got some weather issues here in Target Field. So why don't we go right into Target Field and see what we're dealing with. Plus 2% runs, minus 1% homers, even doubles and triples, minus 2% singles. Let's see if we need to worry about anything. Oh, no, tomorrow's nice. Beautiful. Okay, so let's roll on here. We roll Tyler Mahle, 4.9, 4.64 ERA, 1.32 WHIP. It's got 3.93 expected ERA. I feel like I need to start this breakdown with look. Tyler Mahle has been one of the most predictable pitchers in Major League Baseball for a long time. He shoves it home, and he gets lit up on the road. He's also a high character guy, and this is very important for him to succeed now that he is a Brave and get a chance to get on this rotation coming into the playoffs. Mahle, in his last start, August, so he goes to the pitches at Yankee Stadium in his first start as a Brave. And I tell you guys, I'm like, look, this guy's getting hit every time he's on the road. Now, what I should have done, and I was very fortunate. If you remember that start, it was Mahle versus Max Fried, and the line moved heavily towards the Braves. I'm talking like 40 cents it moved towards the Braves. And I was stuck like a schmuck on the first 5 minus a half on the Yanks and Max Fried and the full game -1. I would have pushed the first 5, and then I did push the full game because they came back and won in extras, the Yankees. So he looks incredible. Doesn't allow a run over 6 innings. So then he goes home and faces the Mets. Well, look, I mean, at that point, it's easy. I know this isn't his home that he's comfortable with, but he just seems to deliver in these situations. We also had TJ saying that you got to respect Mahle, and so we did, and we got paid. Now he's back on the road. It's his 3rd start. He's already proved to his team that, how do we not fade him? And one of the issues I have is I'm much lower on Zebby Matthews than everybody else. Much lower. But I guess, look, his stats are bad now. But I've been low on him all year. 5.34 ERA, 1.35 WHIP, 4.69 expected ERA. Now, he's cost me money fading him. And he's been okay at home. You can see these splits. They're almost as predictable as Mahle's splits. Look, Matthews could have made the Twins out of spring training. He didn't come close. He looked terrible in spring training. He looked terrible last year in the show. I don't understand sometimes. Like, it's very difficult for me to understand, I should say, when these pitchers that look, this guy couldn't get outs at St. Paul. K to walk ratio is trash. So he just didn't look good. And then all of a sudden, he comes in the show and he starts pitching very well, especially at home. Well, that last start was at home, and they did win 7-5. And Boz got me right in the goddamn drink hole. But I don't know, how anybody can trust Zebby Matthews right now. His last 3 starts, he has gone 5 innings in each of them. He's allowed 10 earned runs. He's allowed 17 hits. Now, he has struck out 18 and walked 6. He gets Ks. It sucks that if I fade Mahle, then I have to back Matthews, or I could just bet overs. So there's options. The Twins bullpen, 3.41 ERA, 1.16 WHIP. It's been very good. The Braves bullpen is, we watched the Padres bullpen find themselves and start pitching better. Waiting for the Braves bullpen to do the same. They have not done that. Braves bullpen, 4.92 ERA, 1.45 WHIP over their last 30 days. And then when it comes to the sticks, the Twins aren't hitting. So now John Preston says, I guess that Buxton bump was real yesterday. Look, having Buxton at the top of the lineup card is a wonderful opportunity for any baseball team. But they are hitting 231 with a 665 OPS last 30 days versus righties. And 20 of those days Buxton was not available. Braves versus righties, 248, 746 OPS. They've been hitting righties. So let's get into the line history here for Twins Braves. We have this total at 8.5. There's been 5 cents of movement to the over. 5 cents of movement towards that over. Let's get to the money line here. And I want to know the price difference for 5 and full game. I want to know all of it. So we have no movement at all. This is just sitting here at minus 125. There was a 3-cent move towards the Braves after this line came out 10 minutes later. And then, 5 hours later, it just came back from where it was. So let's get into the price difference first 5 full game. See if the books can kind of give us a hint as to what they expect here. And we got the Braves at minus 127 full game. First 5 minus 122. So Zebi and the Twins are plus 115 full game. First 5 plus 104. An 11-cent difference. 11-cent difference. Topset says he can make a Twins first 5 team total over 2 at minus 110. I can see that being appealing. God, I don't want to back Zebi. The last thing I want to do is be right about Molly and then see Zebi get barreled over and over again and lose money when I was right about the whole idea of Molly. Now, I could easily be very wrong about Molly. This totals a 4.5 heavily juiced to the over, minus 125 to the over. So this is an 8. Sorry, where are we here? This is an 8.5 minus 115 to the over. So we had this very similar situation here with the Leahy Abbott start. The Cardinals Reds. Now those are much more offensive conditions, but the Cardinals Reds, it's an 8.5 minus 120 to the over, and the Braves Twins is an 8.5 minus 115 to the over. When we go into that Cardinals Red spot, that first 5 is a 4.5 at a pick'em, and the first 3 is at a 2.5 at a pick'em. And then when we go into Molly versus Zebi Matthews, the first 5 is minus 125 to the over. So there's 30 cents first 5 lines right now, 365, which is trash. So it's only 10 cents higher. And then the first 3 is minus 140 to the over 2.5. 20 cents difference. I think that these guys should just get tagged early. If we can just focus on fading Molly and Zebi Matthews. First 3 over. God, that first 3 over is too expensive, though. I mean, what would I have to do now? I'd have minus 140. I could turn it into a 3. Ugh, it's just too expensive. God damn it. Of course it's too expensive. Every time you find the angle where you're like, makes the, like that Soriano first 300, it's minus 140. It's just they make it out of your price range just to screw you. Okay, well, obviously it's going to need more time. Maybe I should just keep it simple. The first 5 over, and just call it a day. I can't be sitting here with a minus 140 on the first 3 over 2.5. I could put in the first 3 over 3. Okay, I'll have to figure these things out on my own time, but that's the plan. John Preston says he expects both pitchers to see runners touch home plate. Topset said he sees his card coming together very nicely. And then Mark Stowski says change the price range. All right, let's roll on. Next spot on the board for us, 8:05 p.m. Eastern, White Sox, Cubbies at Wrigley Field in Chicago, Illinois. Man, it's just life is better when the White Sox and Cubbies have a real rivalry, which they do right now. Life is just better. And radar time, says our guy Swiggy, for the White Sox Cubbies here. Let's go into the weather in Chicago right now. The Windy City, see what we're dealing with for a weather for Tuesday. We've got some light rain here early. Light rain at 4 p.m. as well. And then scattered thunderstorms are a problem. Light rain, scattered thunderstorms. Not too bad. Not too bad here. Now, we don't know who is pitching for the White Sox. Their RotoWire has Eric Fetty listed, and Eric Fetty looks terrible right now. His last start was really good, but that was Friday, July 31st. That's when he knew he was starting. He was told he was starting. Maybe he's already been told he was starting. Look, I kind of like Fetty in some high pressure situations. I think he can be undervalued at times, but I'm not going to, put on my rose colored glasses and tell you Eric Fetty is going to be able to shut down the Cubs because that's ridiculous. Now, I don't know if it's going to be Fetty. He's pitched in 26 games. He started 12. He's got a 4.51 ERA, 4.71 expected ERA, 1.41 WHIP, and he's probably not to be trusted. Going up against now, we don't know if it's Fetty at this point. Going up against Kevin Gossman, 4.53 ERA, 1.27 WHIP, 3.90 expected ERA. He's just a real high character guy, and he's coming off a really bad start. 4 2/3, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 1 homer, 7 Ks, 1 walk, and a 7-0 loss at the Nationals. I expect him to, bounce back here. I expect, these high character guys to bounce back from bad starts. Charlie says just take the over 8.5 here in this one. So let's talk about the spot here. We did touch on the rain being an issue. So we have Wrigley at plus 1% runs, plus 15% homers, minus 9% doubles and triples, minus 4% singles. We have a Cubbies bullpen and the White Sox bullpen that both can be trusted enormously. 3.09 ERA, 1.17 WHIP for the Cubbies. White Sox 3.56 ERA, 1.22 WHIP. Now, these are some tired bullpens, especially the Cubbies side of things. Then when it comes to the sticks, the White Sox aren't hitting righties. If you look at the two opportunities Gossman's had to pitch, I mean, this should be I know it's maybe a higher leverage, higher pressure situation, but I mean, the White Sox are not hitting righties. 225, 698 OPS. There's Deacon, Mike, perfect timing. Cubbies versus righties, 253, 754 OPS. One thing I can't have happen is let my own fandom get in the way of action. And I am a fan of Gossman. A lot of books haven't put this line out yet. Heritage has. They got the Cubbies at minus 169 right now. And again, when I do the line chopping, I'm always talking about the offshores. I do care more about what the offshores are dealing with. When we get to the total here, we have an 8.5 at a pick'em. 8.5 at a pick'em. When we get to the cash flow here, and I'm not sure. I mean, today we had 65% of the tickets and 52% of the cash on the over. And this closed at an 8 and opened at an 8.5. For Tuesday's action here, we have 72% of the tickets and 93% cash on the Cubbies. And we're not sure what the total will be at this point. Well, I think we need to know what the hell the White Sox are going to do. I think that's extremely important information. And I don't want to just trust Gossman here. I don't want to also look up if we take a step back to what Gossman was doing before he was sent to the Cubbies, it wasn't very good. If you look at how many bad starts he had, let's go to June 19th. So this is as a J. So we're talking 8 starts here from Gossman. 7 earned runs over 2 innings at the Cubs, 6 earned runs over 6 innings at home versus the Rangers. Then he has a good start at home versus the Mets. So he bounces back. Then he allows 4 earned runs over 5 1/3 at the Giants. That was in run-suppressing weather. Then he bounces back with a quality start at the Padres. Then he comes home and allows 4 earned runs over 3 1/3 at home versus the Rays. 3 earned runs over 6 innings at the Red Sox. It just seemed that he was consistently bouncing back from bad starts. So he's a high character guy why wouldn't he bounce back here? So I want to know who the hell is pitching for the White Sox. And I wouldn't put it past him to have a good start against a Cubs team that can't hit that well. So I have interest. I have interest in the Cubs. I have interest in the bounce back performance from Gossman that we've seen all year. So let's move on at this point. I don't want to spend. We don't need to spend more on that one. 8:05 p.m. Eastern. The Washington Nationals 60 and 66, 33 and 30 on the road at the Texas Rangers 61, 64, 32 and 27 at home. Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. We have the 23-year-old Jackson Kent on the mound. And by the way, Deacon Mike says the heavy rain shows up around 9 p.m. and lasts for 2 hours. And Charlie saying that the over has cashed the last 4 meetings between the Cubbies and the White Sox. Thank you for that, Charlie. Jackson Kent here. So the 4th round pick in the 2024 draft out of the University of Arizona. A very highly thought of prospect. He's their number 1 pitching prospect for the Nationals, even though he's just a 4th round pick 2 years ago. He started this year at AA Harrisburg. Had 7 starts there, and he looked very good. 2.35 ERA, 0.88 whip. Struck out 38 in just 30 2/3. They moved him up to Rochester, to the Dirty Chester. 13 starts up there, 4.38 ERA, 1.24 whip, had a 3.72 expected ERA. He's a quality pitcher. We talked about whether he was being thrown to the Wolves in his first start. Wednesday, August 12th, 4 innings, 3 earned runs, 6 Ks, 5 walks, and 12-6 loss at home versus Cubs. It wasn't him getting hammered. I mean, Bregman hit 3 jacks. None of them were on Jackson Kent. You have to think that this is a much, much easier situation for the kid. Much easier. And that appeals to me. The problem is Port Dope's Cal Quantrill, the nephew of Paul Quantrill, the Toronto Blue Jays. I want to back Cal Quantrill. His statistical profile in watching him pitch, it's not comfortable. 3.44 ERA, 1.20 whip, 4.37 expected ERA. He just can't get you strikeouts when you need him to deliver them. He's a pitcher that delivers on, with soft contact, not getting barreled. We know that the Rangers don't really trust him. He's not been a part of this rotation. Every time he starts getting comfortable, he had a couple good starts, then they skip his start, which is what happened on the weekend. Not this past weekend, 2 weekends ago. They skipped his start entirely. And he looked pretty good in those 2 starts before that. July 28th, he allowed 1 earned run over 5 1/3 at Tampa. That shocked me. I'd faded him in that start, and he got me. I usually back him, too. And when I back him, he can screw me over there, too. Monday, August 3rd, he goes 6 innings, allows 3 runs, 1 earned in a 5-1 loss at home versus the Giants. He looked good in those 2 starts, and then they skip a start. He pitches out of the bullpen. He doesn't complain. He's he works hard. He doesn't whine. His last start, 1 earned run over 5 innings, 5-2 loss to the Angels. Now, the Angels are a weak lineup, but he faced the Orioles, who are kind of weak, faced the Giants, who are weak, faced the Rays, who are tough. When it comes to the bullpens, Rangers bullpen's trash. 5.43 ERA, 1.55 whip last 30. Nats bullpen 4.09 ERA, 1.34 whip. And then when it comes to the sticks, the Rangers don't hit lefties at all. I mean, you're going from facing a Cubbies team that's got a 900-plus OPS versus lefties to a Rangers team that's 666, man. Nats versus righties, 262, 785 OPS. They've continued to hit despite the mass exodus. Also, I think, Jackson Kent just following Cade Cavalli around, I think that's going to be helpful. Let's get into the line of street here for this spot. We have this total of 9 dropping to 8.5, and it's juiced to the under. It's a pretty bold move. It's a pretty bold move. We get to the money line for this spot. We have no movement at all. Minus 150, sticking to minus 150. Let's take a look at the price difference at Penny. This price difference, we have the Rangers minus 150. Well, I'd rather care about Nats because I'm interested in Kent. Nationals plus 138 full game. First 5 plus 124. 14-cent difference. Why doesn't Kent pitch well here? And, why doesn't Quantrill, pitch okay here too? I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't at home pitch okay. And then we just stay away from the bullpens. So we move on a first 3 under and not on the first 5 under, because you expect, for me with Jackson Kent, I would rather have him that first time seeing the lineup, not necessarily the second time. So we have an 8 at minus 120 to the over. We talked about the Miller and Harrison total. Now we know that that's a bit of an outlier because that was minus 140 to the over, so we don't want to get too caught up into that comparison. But we've now compared 4 games at the total of 8 on their first threes. So let's see what we're dealing with here. This should be a pick 'em. And then you would think there'd be, a lot of people betting the over. We'd want to see if the line moved. And it is. It's a pick 'em. Sitting here to pick 'em on the 2.5. Top set says that Nats first 5 plus a half looks like the play. Yeah, I agree. The first 5 plus a half backing Jackson Kent, and then the first 3 under 2.5. God, this is going to be sweaty. God, this is. John Preston says these Ranger bats have never seen Kent. Rangers under 4.5 runs, minus 130. Says the first 300 might be live. I think it might be too. Oof, this is sick play. This is for the eye of a sickness play of the day here. First 3 under 2.5 with Jackson Kent and Cal Quantrill. Godfather says Kent's changeup could be a legitimate neutralizer for right-handed hitters. Texas can stack right-handed bats. Jake Berger is the right-handed bat that is good against left-handed pitching. All right, well, I'm interested. It's just sick enough for me to be extremely interested. Let's roll on. 8:10 p.m. Eastern. We have 2 games left. I need to speed this up. We got to be done in 12 minutes. So I'll speed this. 8:10 p.m. Eastern, the LA Angels, 49-76, 20-40 on the road at the Houston Astros, 63-62, 31-31 at home. I know we have to rush, but God, I need to know the score. 5 minutes left, 66-55. Coming down to the wire there in Valks Wings. The Valks have scored 4 points in the fourth quarter, and we're 5 minutes in. Just leave it to the WNBA. These teams just fall apart in the fourth quarter. And then Topset saying that first 3 is a live over after the 5. I guess I imagine Spooner asking what's the price 365 for the first 3 and 2.5. It's pick 'em, minus 120 each way. So let's roll here. Angels, Astros, Dyken Park in Houston, Texas. With George Clausen, 6th round pick in the 2023 draft. 5.52 ERA, 2.11 WHIP, 6.59 expected ERA. Now that's just over 14 2/3. Look, the show is a tough place to pitch, and we have Clausen here with 14 strikeouts and 15 walks. I mean, it's not where he wants to be. AAA Salt Lake 6-6, 3.96 ERA, 1.42 WHIP. So he was the Pacific Coast League Pitcher of the Month in July. 6th round pick in the 2023 draft. And I expect him to be really good. And he's showing us that here. So when Topset says I can't bet these bumps, I assume he's talking about. I don't think he's talking about George Clausen, but maybe he is. George Clausen, I think, is going to be a very good pitcher in Major League Baseball, and he's showing us that last start at home versus the Rangers, 2 earned runs over 6 innings, quality start, completely in control. The 2 starts that we've seen George Clausen up in the show, he's gone 10 innings, he's led 3 earned runs. I think he's going to be a really good pitcher. Javier is the bum to me. 6.68 ERA. I don't want to say bum, but the questionable one here. 6.68 ERA, 1.70 WHIP. We have Javier not being used often. Last time we saw him start was August 9th. He started the last 2 games. He was a primary July 27th, and he looked pretty good as a primary, and then he started 2 games. August 3rd at home versus the Jays, and he looked pretty good, 3 runs over 6 innings. And then August 9th at the Padres, 5 innings and 4 runs. These bullpens are both pitching very well and can clean up messes that the offense or that the starting pitchers create. The Astros bullpen here. Oh, Top said I couldn't disagree more, but that's part of the fun. It's hard to be. He's a young kid, the best pitcher in the entire Pacific Coast League in July, and coming off a very beautiful start. I mean, look at that start. I mean, I look, it's fine. We don't need to agree on things. And so John Preston concerned about the Valks letting go late. Still got 5 minutes left there. But Javier, on the other hand, I think is the vulnerable one. But he's been pitching better last 2 starts knowingly. But this is a long time off. I mean, Last starting August 9th. I mean, 8 days rest. No starting pitchers are asking for 8 days rest. Again, these bullpens are very good. The Angels bullpen, I'm shocked that I'm saying that, but 3.31 ERA, 1.22 whip. Astros bullpen, 2.82 ERA, 1.06 whip. And the Angels aren't hitting. So if you want to give Javier an opportunity, this is the one to do it. Topset says books are saying that he gets exposed. Astros first 5 team total is 2.5 at -125. Yeah, it's a pretty high first 5 team total. There's no doubt about it. But back to business. The Angels can't hit righties. 216, 601 OPS, and Warren is piggybacking off of the that Yankee start. God, it's a fun game to cap. That Yankee. So thank you for letting us know that, Spooner. I did have Will Warren all set up for the breakdown, and then we found out Rodon is pitching, but. So let's get into the line history here for this spot. We've had no movement towards the Astros and Javier. This has been available since 1:56 p.m. It's just a -165 sitting there. From a total side of things here, we have a 9 at -120. It's a high total for Dyken Park. But again, this opened up 1:56 p.m. It's not moving at all. And then when we get into the cash flow for this spot, we have 91% of the tickets and 92% of cash on the over. A huge amount of money coming on the over, and books not caring whatsoever. Circa does have this juice to the over at -120. But they haven't. That's just where they opened it at 7:30 p.m. and just left it there. And then 84% of tickets, 87% cash on the Astros. Well, this is a first 3 under and an earlier under that I do believe in. When gamblers see these numbers, 5.52 ERA, 2.11 whip for Clausen, 6.68 ERA, 1.70 whip from Javier, you understand that 91 or 92% of cash is going to come in on the over. And if the lines don't blink, if the books just don't blink at all, it interests me. So Topset says if we're looking for a sign, it's take the over before it goes to 10. No, I don't agree with that, Topset. There has been no sign. I think we can easily have clarity on that. There's been no sign. This has been available since 2 p.m. today. Every single cent that's coming in is on the over, and the books don't care. Now, maybe there just hasn't been enough money in yet. Maybe when we wake up, we'll see a 10. But at this point, the sign is that the books don't care that everybody's betting the over. At least that's, how I see it. And again, part of the fun is, not seeing things the same way. So this one's going to need more time here. But it wouldn't surprise me if Javier can shut down the weakest offense in Major League Baseball. I mean, if you look at, I know the Blue Jays have the least amount of runs in Major League Baseball for the year. But if you look at just the last few months, I mean, it's just the Angels are the worst by far in Major League Baseball, and the Yankees are just above them. So, Keith Just Truth says Astros rank and bounce back from Sunday night loss. I'm interested in continuing this discussion for this game. I think it's extremely interesting. I'm going to leave it alone at this point, but I'm interested. I'm interested in a bunch of things, but we want to see what the market does. Let's roll on. Let's roll on to Dodgers, Rockies, and man, I screwed this one up today with Tomoyuki Sugano. Very, very frustrating. We're Coors Field in Denver, Colorado, plus 35% runs, plus 25% homers, plus 28% doubles and triples, plus 18% singles. We have Eric Lauer. Every time Eric Lauer stepped on the field, except for one game, that was a 7-6 loss to the Cubs, the Dodgers have won. And he's not shoving. He's just pitching decent, giving his team an opportunity to win. That was a nice start, 4-2 win at home over the Royals in his last start, 6 1/3, 1 earned run over and with 4 hits over 6 1/3. We have Ryan Feltner on the other side, and we've seen Feltner pitch well of late, but look at the situations he's been in. He pitches at the Cardinals, who can't hit, last 3 earned runs over 5 1/3. Then he goes to Arizona. At least it's the kind of conditions that he can handle very, very, very easily. It's an indoor environment is set, and he's pitched well in both of those. I don't trust him in the thin air of Colorado right now. Last time he was there, he pitched okay, 4 runs over 6 innings versus the Royals. The start before that, 8 earned runs over 2 1/3 at home versus the Reds. He faced the Giants in back-to-back starts and did okay against them, but I don't really trust them at this point. I don't trust either of these pitchers at this point. Rockies bullpen 4.53 ERA, 1.49 WHIP. Dodgers bullpen 4.59 ERA, 1.42 WHIP. The Rockies are hitting lefties harder than the Dodgers are hitting righties. I mean, we can imagine that to change, but Rockies versus lefties 257, 737 OPS. Dodgers versus righties 241, 705 OPS. The Dodgers are turning it on right now. I mean, we all see it. It's very clear. Let's take a look at the line history here for this spot. This total opened up at a 12. Now it's dropped to an 11.5. So we've seen a half-run drop. And then on the money line here, we have a 12-cent move towards the Dodgers, minus 158 to minus 170. Even that is kind of fishy. I don't understand why they wouldn't be bigger favorites. But I guess, the Dodgers just 12 games over 500 on the road. Rockies 5 games under 500 at home. Yeah, Deacon, Tucker is being taken a beating in social media right now. He's not playing very well. So let's get to the cash flow for the Rockies. I'm surprised the Dodgers aren't a bigger favorite. I mean, we all could see this becoming a minus 200, when we wake up this morning, but it's a strange opening line. When we have the cash flow, 93% of tickets, 93% of cash on the Dodgers. Surprised it's not a bigger line. 50-50 on the ticket, but 92% cash on the over. It's dropped a half run. Man Bear Pig says, I expect the Rockies to win tomorrow, but he won't have money on it. He says, I regrettably went back to the well with the Rockies after winning with them. Their bats were hot. Dodgers bats were cold. It was only a matter of time before they looked like the Dodgers again. They do look like the Dodgers again. I mean, it's a pretty simple spot here, but I don't understand really. I mean, look, I imagine this will be a minus 200 in the morning. And I guess if you look at the win-loss record of these two teams, I guess the line does make sense. We'd have to dive a little bit deeper into Eric Lauer. And, Topset says Dodgers price is cheap, too cheap. Eric Lauer, of course, was a J before he was bouncing all over the place. But let's just see Eric Lauer's record pitching at Coors Field. See what we get, and then we can move on from this one. Eric Lauer's record 1-6 with a 10.43 ERA and 8 appearances pitching at Coors Field. Wow. I guess that's the story right there. Huh. Now, he had a good start in 2025 as a J, but that's pretty ugly. I guess that's the story there. All right, let's grab the... I wonder if... I don't know if I have the balls to bet Rockies first 3 plus a half, but I'll leave it here and keep studying it. All right, let's do a review of Major League Baseball action for Tuesday, August 18th. We have a 9-point game with 1 minute and 12 seconds left in Valk's Wings. Can't the Wings just shut it down? Can't they just let go? Oh, and missed a free throw shot. Come on, Valks. Okay, let's do a review of all action. Now, this was a very rare situation where I really wanted to talk everything out with you guys. So I want the Orioles here. I want to fade Rodon and back the Wizard of Boz, but I am slightly hesitant. First 3 and first 5s are what I'm looking at. I am slightly hesitant now. We've been told that Will Warren will take over after Carlos Rodon, legitimately on the pitch count. That Tigers-Pirates game, I felt there was a lot of conjecture, a lot of conflicting stuff there. A Man Bear Pigs play today is the Miami Marlins at plus 200. I'm interested in this full game over in Marlins-Phillies with Wheeler going up against Phillips, but I could hold off at this point. I've been fading Wheeler last couple of games with the whole rubber incident and whether his foot's on the rubber or not. Guardians first half and full game in the first 3 under 2.5, and Giants Guardians. I'm going to be studying that, and I expect to move on those. They are respecting Wisnahan at the books, which throws me for a loop. Leahy, first 5, man. Cards, first 5, and the first 3 under 2.5 in Leahy versus Andrew Abbott in offensive conditions at Great American Park. First 3 under and first 5 under in Jays Rays. Now, the first 3 under is just a little too expensive, so I got to really figure out exactly how I'm going to bet that here. An 8-point game right now. God, the Valks just keep missing baskets. Okay. Then we have here, as we move through this card, Diamondbacks, Red Sox. Going to hold off a movement at this point. The Padres' first 5 in full game interest me very much. The market's not helping me get there. Then the Royals Athletics game is wildly interesting. And, we know where the public's going to be. I don't know if I want to get in the way of it. I will be on the first 5 over and the Brewers first 5 -0.5 and Mariners Brewers. So that is going to be bet this evening. And then the first 5 over in Braves Twins. I wish I could get to that first 3 over as well. I can't at this point. God, I'm going to need some foul shots right now, Miss Burton. And then we have the Cubbies do interest me. Gossman on the bounce back opportunity I kind of like. The first 5 +0.5 on the Nats and the first 3 under 2.5 in Kent Quantrill. That would scare the shit out of me moving on it early. I know that I'd wake up at 6 in the morning, and have to look at it immediately. Rockies first 3 +0.5. I mean, Lauer's been really, really bad in Colorado. I don't know if I want to put too much emphasis into that, but that's the reason why the -170 is so cheap. And that is Major League Baseball here. Let's roll on. Deacon Mike says, catch the Cubs home run total over 1.5 tonight. Plan on betting it tomorrow with wind blowing out at Wrigley, but will depend when the rain actually shows up here. So, okay. So we have a 8-point game here. All of our actions on the line here in Valks Wings. But let's get into the WNBA. We start at 7 p.m. Eastern. We've got to be do this very quick here. We have the LA Sparks. Now, this is not at Mohegan Sun Arena. Actually, Swiggy. This is at TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. So this is the third TD Garden game for the Connecticut Sun. They have sold out the first 2, and this is a big deal to them. The Sparks coming off their 4th straight loss following 80-70 at the Mystics on Saturday. This is the final game of their 3-game trip. Akoa Makani has missed 4 straight games with an ankle injury. She's listed as questionable here. She averages 9.4 points, 2.5 assists, 2.1 boards. Cameron Brink missed the Mystics game with a rib injury. She's listed as questionable here. The Connecticut Sun coming off their 7th loss in 8 games, 82-75 at home to the Liberty on Saturday, and they hit the road after this one. Brittany Griner played in 2 straight games before missing the loss to the Liberty. She's questionable with a knee injury. Now, was Brittany Griner staying off of that game just so that she could play at TD Garden? And Aaliyah Edwards followed the same pattern. She played in 2 straight games before missing the Liberty game. She's listed as questionable with an ankle injury. I want to back the Connecticut Sun early. I think the Connecticut Sun are live first quarter, first half, and then the Sparks will do what they do, and they'll just keep battling back in the game. Look, we know that this isn't the kind of team in the Connecticut Sun that you would want to back. And I'm surprised we have very few books. Oh shoot, I skipped the wrong day. Sorry. Yeah, let's go over it too. So we have this had moved to 2 at some books. It's opened up -1.5 for LA. They'd moved to 2 at some books, but we don't need to worry about this for full game. All we need to worry about is this. First quarter, first half. I think we double down on the Connecticut Sun being in front of a packed TD Garden arena. And I don't know if this game's going to be sold out because everyone knows the state of the Connecticut Sun and the fact that they're not going to be in Connecticut for much longer. But I do like the Connecticut Sun early, first quarter and first half. Now, will Griner be in? Will Aaliyah Edwards be in? Again, I don't have those answers, but I like it. And I'm going to move on it. I just kind of wanted to talk it out a little bit more. We have the Wings heading towards the line with 29 seconds left. All right, let's roll on. So first quarter, first half is what I want here for the Sun. Sun, first quarter, and first half. All right, we roll on. Next spot on the board for us, 7 p.m. Eastern, Indiana Fever at the Toronto Tempo. Fever coming off their 4th straight win, 95-91 at the Dream on Sunday. Let's get right into the line history here. Indiana Fever opening up at -9.5. Now they're at -10. And then from a total standpoint here, we opened up at 193.5. We're down to 192.5. We get to the cash flow here. Let's get into the cash flow. I'd be curious to see what it is. We didn't touch on the first game, and I should have seen what it was. That game is perfect for us. 89% of tickets, 92% of cash on the Sparks. Perfect. And this game, we have 88% of tickets and 89% of cash on Indiana Fever. 84% of tickets on the under, 67% of cash on that under. So let's break this down here. Fever coming off that 4th straight win, 95-91, the Dream on Sunday. This feels sort of like a letdown spot. Aaliyah Boston is listed as probable with a lower leg injury. Caitlin Clark listed as probable with a back injury. So they're both expected to be in the lineup. We have the Tempo coming in off their 10th straight loss in 14th and 15 games. A 94-88 at Dallas on Wednesday. They continue to deal with these injuries. Julia Alamon, she's out. Maria Conde, whatever it is out. And Niara Sabali, all out of the lineup. The big story is that Brittany Sykes is listed as probable. She's missed the Tempo's last 18 games with a left foot injury. I'm not sure exactly how much time she's going to get out on the floor, but she was having a hell of a season. 20.1 points per game, 3.8 boards, 3.5 assists, 1.3 steals, and 31.8 minutes per game. That was just 15 regular season games, so that will be a boost. I don't know to what extent at this point here, and the game just doesn't appeal to me that much. The Fever coming off big games, like they're going to be ready to go here. It doesn't appeal to me too much. Let's roll on to our next spot on the board. 9 p.m. Eastern. New York Liberty 22-14, 10-9 on the road at the Chicago Sky. 13-22, 8-9 at home. We're at Wintrust Arena in Chicago, Illinois. Let's get into the line history here for this one. This total opened up at 182.5 and dropped to 181.5. Then on the point spread here, we have New York opening up at -4.5. Now they're at a -4. The issue being Sabrina Ionescu missed the last game with a foot injury. She's questionable to miss her 2nd straight game. I imagine that is the expectation that she's not going to be in the lineup, at least, is pushing this towards the Sky, who are 8-9 at home. This Liberty team is just 10-9 on the road. Fibic and Sabali remain out of the lineup. Sky coming off snapping their 3-game losing streak with an 82-80 win at Seattle on Sunday. Sydney Taylor, Sky's leading scorer, has been sidelined for 2 weeks with the left groin injury. Missed 5 straight games. So she's been out since August 3rd, 2026. She's listed as questionable to return here. I know that Liberty basically no-showed in their 6th win of 7 games at Connecticut, barely squeaking past them without Ionescu, but I'm not running here. I'm not. Yes, Connecticut. No. I think it's just the Storm that are being eliminated, right? Because the Lynx made the playoffs. Storm got eliminated. I don't know if the Sun are officially eliminated. They're certainly not going to make the playoffs, but I don't know if they're officially eliminated at this point. Okay, so we have a 2-point basket by Beckers. It's 6-point game still, and we're going to get the foul right away. Man, it's a sweat. They always are. They always are. Thank you for running with me. His airness, it means a ton. So that's Liberty Sky. I want to sit with that one for longer. Let's talk about Dream Aces and put a bow on the proceedings. Dream had their 2-game winning streak snapped in 95-91 overtime loss at home versus the Fever on Sunday, and they're dealing with injuries. Breonna Jones, their center, appears to be out longer term than expected. So she'll be out probably till after the FIBA break with a leg injury. And then Jordan Canada is sick right now, but she's listed as probable to play. They've lost both meetings this year with the Aces. They lost 85-84 on May 17th, and then they got crushed on August 3rd, 109-87. If you remember that game on August 3rd, that line moved towards the Atlanta Dream. It clear was there. They were the sharp action, and the Aces just destroyed them. Both losses came at home. The problem here, that all sets us up perfectly, right, to back Atlanta. But the Aces coming off having their 2-game losing streak snapped in 92-87 home loss to the Lynx on Saturday. It's great for us as we're sitting here with this plus 650 on the Lynx to win the chip, which is not as good as Ronnie Crawford's plus 1,200. Shout out to a great Ron Crawford. But that's a problem. The Aces are coming off of a loss to the Lynx. They're going to be an angry group. They know what they did to the Dream. It's too bad that the Aces didn't just beat the Lynx. Then it would be very easy and quite appealing for us to move on it. Let's take a look at this line history. We have a 3.5 for Vegas. Low number. It's not moved. And then this total opened up at 180.5 and is now at 170.5. We get to the cash flow for this spot. We have 56% of the tickets and 81% of cash on the Aces, but this line's not moving. And it's a really low line. 90% of tickets on the under and 88% of cash on the under. These last three spots are going to need some more attention and time. I'm going to move on the Suns first quarter and first half. I'm also going to. We went 6-2 in CFL last week, much needed to get back and feeling good about ourselves with confidence. Still early enough to destroy the CFL. I just got to heat up. We had gotten really hot, but then 2 bad weeks in a row. So I'm going to move on 2 bets here in the CFL. So we'll discuss them on the morning show tomorrow. That is our show for today. Thank you guys so much for running with us here. The Nightly Bag on Pub Sports Radio. His Aaron is Johnny Preston, Top Set, Spooner, The Godfather, Deacon, Mike, Man, Bear, Pig, Mark Stasowski. Thank you guys so much. Keith, Just Truth, all of you guys, thank you so much for supporting the show. Let's get this cash. We put in the work. Now let's reap the rewards. Let's have a monster Tuesday. On behalf of all of us, Pop Sports Radio, thank you guys so much for your support. Let's milk these bookies, man. Let's milk these others. Leche! Hey, los bookmakers.
It's easier to sleep in the black. When you're losing your ass and feeling so, you know what to do. Tune in to Pop Sports Radio. Easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. It's a roller coaster ride, you're gonna catch a bad beat. No problem, keep your head up and just bet the spreadsheet. It's easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. All thanks to Jeff Slaughter, these shows have our backs. POD's always rolling, especially the stats. Easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. We got Jimmy, Jose, Dabby and the fam, Dutch Wine Time, Spooner and OG Wham. So hit the like button, don't say that you can't. If you know what's best, just put your money on tape.